Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on the time zone that you're joining us from. Welcome to our session to the application tips for the Master Management Program. Some of you may already know me. My name is Daria Patrusheva. I'm the Recruitment and Admissions Manager for the program here at the Robert H. Lee Graduate School within the UBC Sauter School of Business, where the program is housed. I'm so excited that you're joining us today. I really hope that the session will help answer the questions about the program and offer some valuable information. Before we begin, I would like to inform you that we will be recording this session, so it is up to you if you want to be on camera or if you want to turn your camera off, but we may share the session on our YouTube channel to offer this information to other prospective applicants as well. And before we start, I would like to acknowledge that UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. I would also like to acknowledge that you're joining us today from many places near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands as well. So joining me today are my colleagues, Tamara Shtanova and Terlin Wong. They will be managing our Zoom webinar, providing tech support and help answer some of your questions. If at any point you would like to submit a question for us, please put it in the chat, but we'll also have the Q&A session at the end part of this presentation. Here's our agenda for today. We'll start with a brief overview of admission requirements for the Master Management Program, and then we'll take a closer look at the GMAT GRE Waiver eligibility, as I'm sure many of you are wondering about that. And after that, I'll give you some quick last-minute application tips in case you're hoping to apply for the upcoming January 11th deadline. And then we can move into the Q&A period where you can ask your questions. Let's start by going over the admission requirements for the program. The selection process for this program is rigorous. Our candidates are carefully selected against competitive requirements to ensure that you learn from peers who have demonstrated vision, leadership, and experience. Applications are accepted on a rolling basis and are reviewed holistically. I want to mention that meeting the minimum requirements does not guarantee admission to this program. First of all, the Master Management is intended for graduates from non-business bachelor degrees, meaning that in order to be eligible for this program, you couldn't have majored or even minored in business or management in your undergraduate or one of your previous degrees if you have multiple. You will need to submit your transcripts as part of the admission application. Detailed instructions how to do that are available on our website. The website is sauter.ubc.ca/mm. Admission requirements for the program in general. We do look at your academic requirements, your professional experience, English language proficiency, maturity, motivation, fit, and the GMAT GRE scores. So I'll go over each in more detail. I have already mentioned on how to submit your documents. And now let's take a look at the professional experience. So that's something a lot of you will be wondering about as well. So just to mention that if you are submitting your transcripts, you can choose to submit official transcript physically or electronically, but please note that we do not accept transcripts as email attachments, even if they come directly from your university's email. So if you have any questions on how to submit your documents, specifically, please feel free to reach out to myself. I'll provide my contact information, or to our office. We'll provide our admissions email as well. Now, for the professional experience, as I mentioned, we are looking for less than 2 years of work experience. And how we count that is we look at full-time work experience upon graduation. So if you've done something like a co-op experience during your undergrad, we don't count that towards this 2 years. But if you've graduated and you had a full-time job for, let's say, a year, so that's something we're going to be look at and consider during the evaluation process. We also are not going to be counting unpaid internships or volunteering or part-time work or something like that. So if you have those experiences, you're not necessarily going to exceed the requirements for the 2-year cap. But if you do have more than 2 years of work a full-time work experience upon graduation, we do invite you to consider our other programs, such as the Master of Business Administration, because they, you would not be eligible essentially for the Master Management in this case. If you are unsure, please reach out and we can take a look at your experience more closely and see where you fall within that range and whether or not you exceed the cap. So English language proficiency is another requirement that we have. Many of our applicants are able to meet it because they've graduated with a degree from Canada or the US, or if they provide an official document stating that English was the official language of instruction at their institution. So it must be stated on the transcript that you submit to us. Alternatively, you're able to take one of these exams with the following scores. If you would like to refer to this information for the scores, they are on our website, sauder.ubc.ca/mm. And right now during COVID, we are accepting the IELTS indicator score. So your band score needs to be 7.0 and no IELTS indicator score lower than 7.0. As part of the application process, we assess your managerial and leadership potential, maturity, ambition, and drive. So how we do this is through a variety of components on your application, such as your composition questions, 90-second video essay, resume, professional references, and interview. The references part, I'll cover in more detail. For the resume, you will be able to upload it as a PDF file on your application. And if you are successful in the initial selection process, we will invite you for interview. And you might be wondering what the composition questions and the video question essays, video essay questions are that you need to answer in your application. So I've copied them into the slide, but do keep in mind if you have applied in the past, for example, if you applied last year, the questions did change slightly, so you might see that they are different. Regarding the video essay, so we do encourage and appreciate creativity, but it's not mandatory. And what we do ask, what is mandatory, is that you appear on video. So I would recommend that you treat it as an interview and be professional. You're applying to business school. So lastly, as part of the admission process, we do require a GMAT or GRE test score. There's no preference for which one of these two tests you write, but it does need to be completed within the last 5 years. For GMAT, we require a minimum of a score of 550, with at least the 50th percentile in the quantitative and verbal sections of the test. For GRE, you need to have a minimum of 155 score in both verbal and quantitative sections. I should mention that in your application, you're also able to indicate the date when you will anticipate to write this test. This lets our admissions office know when we can receive it. And after writing your test, please arrange for it to be sent directly from the testing institution to us using these codes. You can also find them on our website as well. So some of you might be wondering about the GMAT or GRE waiver. In order to be eligible, you need to meet one of the following requirements. First way to meet it is to have a master's degree with a minimum academic average of B+ or equivalent. In this case, either your master's or your bachelor's degree need to be from the STEM field, so science, technology, engineering, or math. Or you need to have a minimum of 4 quantitative courses. So you must pass all 4 courses to be considered for this requirement. The second option to meet the waiver eligibility is to have a UBC bachelor's or master's degree with a minimum academic average of B+. Again, in this case, you have to have a bachelor's or master's degree in STEM or minimum 4 past quantitative courses. The third way to qualify for GMAT GRE waiver is to have a level 3 CFA designation. So CFA stands for Chartered Financial Analyst. And in addition to that, you have to have a B+ average on your bachelor's degree. So I want to stress that just having a B+ average is not sufficient. You need to have a CFA designation, and we do not accept Chartered Professional Accountant designation. The fourth way to qualify for waiver is to have a PhD degree. If you don't meet any of these requirements, you're not eligible to apply for a waiver. You must write the test, GMAT or GRE exam. Some additional things to note: if you have 2 or more degrees, at least 1 degree must meet the minimum academic average. LSAT certificates will not be considered, and GMAT GRE scores older than 5 years will not be considered. If you're not sure whether your GPA meets the minimum requirements, for example, if your school used a different grading scale, you can look at this website to see how it will convert. Now, if you find that you're meeting one of the 4 requirements with GMAT or GRE exemption, you must still apply for it and submit a statement of qualification. So in 1 page or less, please explain how you are eligible and why you deserve this waiver. For example, say that I have a UBC degree of engineering and my average is A-. On top of that, in your application, in the standardized test section, you must indicate that you are taking the GMAT on December 31st, 2022. This lets us know that you will be applying for a waiver. Now, at this point, the deadline for international applicants to apply for the GMAT GRE waiver had passed on October 26th, but domestic applicants are still able to apply until January 11th. Please note that your application for the MM program is also due on this date if you're hoping to request the waiver. If you apply after that deadline, you must take the GMAT or GRE exam and arrange for your official scores to be sent to us. The deadline to submit your scores is two weeks after the final application deadline. Please note that GMAT GRE waiver is not guaranteed even if you've met the deadline, and we will review each applicant on a case-by-case basis. If your waiver is not approved, you will receive a notification from us that you need to take the exam and send your GMAT or GRE score. So lastly, I have some last-minute application tips for you, those of you who are applying for the January 11th deadline. You can actually submit your application without your GMAT or GRE score. So don't rush to take the exam because you want to get the best possible score. And if your academic average from your previous degree is less than competitive, then we do recommend that you aim for a higher GMAT or GRE exam score because that can help your application. On our program's website, we have a sample resume. So we encourage every student to fashion their resume after it. And that's not because we don't appreciate creativity or individuality, but there are some things we need to know about your work experience and your extracurricular involvement. And this resume essentially provides a template for that. So for example, we need to know how many months of work experience you have to see if you're exceeding the 2-year cap for the work experience requirements. So for that reason, please take a look at that sample resume and try to have all of the information that we're asking for in the resume. If you do decide to do a different format, that's fine, but just make sure that you're addressing the months of work experience that you have. So proofreading your composition questions may seem like an obvious advice, but it's very important. So the best tip I can give you is give your answers to somebody else to read. And if they can guess what the question was, that means you're answering the question exactly on point. If they're not sure what the question was, that means that your answer is not very concise and it's a little bit too vague. So you might want to work on it a little bit more. So be direct. So the next one is the video essay. So we have already touched upon this briefly, but it is very important. So the video is not live. Don't worry, you have multiple attempts to actually film it until you're satisfied. Not looking for an Oscar-worthy production. It is more of an interview, like I mentioned, so please be professional. Go into it and answer the question as you would answer the question in an interview. Prepare for it like a job interview, have a clean or neutral background. Also, what you can do is sometimes other applicants keep their videos public, so they put it on YouTube or Vimeo and you're able to search it there, but we don't expect that you make your video public. You can definitely make it unlisted, password protected, just make sure that you are putting the password in your application so that we can actually access it. And another tip I can give you is make sure that the link is working, because sometimes we've had applicants who've taken down the video and we were not able to watch it. So please make sure you have a functional link. We don't need letters of reference, but we do need your referees to fill in the questionnaire that we will send to them. So make sure you pick somebody who gives you good reference, who can speak to your abilities to be professional, to do teamwork and things like that. And somebody who answers their emails quickly, because the last thing you want is for your application to stall because we're waiting on a reference. So the questionnaire we send them takes about 20 minutes to fill out. So I would say, to avoid any surprises for them, let them know you're listing them as a reference. They can expect this email, and it's about a 20-minute commitment, just so they know when it's coming. So the admissions committee is looking to see whether candidates are a good fit for cohorts. A cohort for a master management program is up to 60 people, so it is quite small. And with that being said, the fit is very important. So we like to see that applicants have done research. So ask yourself, have you looked into curriculum? Have you looked into what our alumni have done? We've done many alumni panels, and there are recordings on our website in the information session section where you can watch our alumni talk about their career paths, what they've gotten out of the program, what they've done after. So that can give you some context, and that can help you prepare for your interview as well. So I would say don't wait until the last moment to submit your application. That's probably the best tip I can give you. You can submit without a GMAT or the GRE score. We do have a rolling admission basis, so that means we give decisions on a first come, first served basis. So the sooner you apply, the sooner you'll hear a decision. And so it is in your best interest to submit the application sooner rather than later. And as you may know, the applications for Master Management Program have several deadlines. So the next deadline is January 11th, and that's the deadline for both domestic and international applicants. We will also have a deadline on March 1st, and that is also a deadline for domestic and international, but that is the final deadline for international applicants. Domestic applicants will have another deadline, and that will be final on April 5th. And now let's see if anybody has questions. I would say if you have a very kind of personal or case-specific question, I would recommend that you send it to us by email, so you can see our admissions email and my personal email here, so please feel free to reach out. But if you think that the group can benefit from your questions, then please go ahead and ask them. So is it possible to receive a waiver if both the GMAT GRE are not offered in the country where we live? I would say reach out to us and we can look into what's possible for you, especially if you're an international applicant and the deadline has already passed. But if you find that you don't have the ability to take exam, please email us. So that would be an example of a personal question where you should reach out to us directly. So somebody is saying that you've submitted your GRE scores to UBC instead of UBC Slaughter. So you do need to use the codes that we have on our website to make sure that it comes to us. So let me see if I can put up the slide again with the, so you need to use these codes, and if you use them, then they're coming to us. If you use something else, please email us and let us know, and we'll try to look for where your results were sent. Maybe they were sent to another department, but you do need to use these codes. That's how you make sure that we receive them. So is the IELTS exam needed if you have a degree at York? So is it York in Toronto? Is it York in England? If you have an English speaking degree and it does say on your transcript that your the mode of instruction was in English language, then you do meet the English language proficiency requirement. We just need you to submit that transcript to us. So if you graduated 5 years ago, can you apply to the master program? So this is the session on master management. So as I mentioned, we do have a 2-year requirement, 2-year maximum for the full-time work experience upon graduation. So if you've graduated from your bachelor's 5 years ago, then it depends on what you were doing after. So if you were working full-time for these 5 years, unfortunately you do exceed the work experience cap. But what I would recommend is that you probably explore the Master of Business Administration. So it's another degree that we offer, and you can take a look at that one. That degree does require at least 2 years of experience, and it's intended for mid-career professionals. The intention of the Master Management program is for early career professionals, so early graduates. The average age of our cohort is about 23 years old, 23, 24. So they are most of the time within 2 years of their graduation from the bachelor degree. So for that reason, it really depends on kind of where you fall within your work experience. That will really matter. So you could apply if you weren't working full time all 5 years, but it depends. So if you want to chat about it more, email us and we will let you know. I see that Adesh had a question and raised a hand. So if you want to unmute and put yourself on camera, then feel free to ask your question.
Hi, Daria. Actually, my camera is not working, so sorry for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question. I'm an international student. I'm from India specifically. So I started my application process for my master's in management program, but I'm just stuck at the GMAT GRE scores. So two things here. You mentioned that if there's a deadline for international students for the waiver, which was October 26, 2021. But but let's say in my scenario, I have done my bachelor's in engineering, 4 years program, right? A specialization in IT. So am I eligible for the bachelor, and can I go ahead and submit my application, considering, because to be very straightforward, I won't be giving my GMAT or GRE. So what's the, if you can just guide me here, please.
Okay, sorry. So just to recap your question. So you have a degree from a STEM field, but
Yes.
you are applying now, right? So you missed the international deadline for
Right.
GMAT or GRE waiver. Yeah, so in this case, you will have to write the exam because unfortunately at this point, we can provide waivers to international applicants. So you do need to provide us with a score, but what you can do is you can submit your application now and then write your exam and just submit your score a bit later. So that's an option for you in this case.
Okay. Again, a part of the question, but considering this Omicron variant right now going on in India and everywhere, definitely. So is there a way university considering a waiver for international students for GMAT GRE?
So not at this point, unfortunately. The deadline has passed in October and we are now in January. So we are still accepting waivers for domestic applicants for a couple of days, but they will also have a deadline on January 11th. So for yourself, if you are an international applicant, you will have to write a GMAT or GRE exam. So hopefully that answers.
Understood. Thank you so much, Daria.
Yeah, you're welcome, of course. Okay, let's see if we have more questions in the chat. Okay, so Ananya asked, could you elaborate on what you're looking for from the, so your recommendations, right? Okay, so you might want to pick somebody who was your supervisor at your job. Doesn't have to be a full-time job. Not all of our applicants have work experience. Some of our applicants have never worked full-time, but still, you want a professional reference. So that is preferable. And you will need to provide 2 references. So, if you've never had a job, then you might look for an alternative. But if you had that is preferable, somebody who was your supervisor and you were directly reporting to, because a lot of questions we'll be asking will be pertaining to your ability to work with a team and your professional capabilities and things like that. And this really helps us determine your fit for the program. It is a business program in a business school, so those are the questions that we'll be asking. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight into what we're looking for. Okay, so Rebecca asked, only having English proficiency is enough or German language certificate? Okay, so our delivery of our programs is all in English. And so English language proficiency is actually a requirement across UBC for all applicants. Most of our domestic applicants meet it because they've done a degree here in Canada. So it is still a requirement for them, but they just kind of meet it automatically to having done a degree at UBC or another Canadian university. For international applicants, if you're coming from an English-speaking country, you likely have a degree that was delivered in English as well. Or, if you're able to provide us with a transcript that says this degree was fully delivered in English language, you can also do that. But if you don't have that, and for example, like if your degree was delivered in German, then you may have to take the English language proficiency test. So I hope that answers your question. So Timmy asked if the B+ average is measured on a certain number of courses. So it is your overall academic average for your bachelor's degree, or if you have multiple degrees, at least one of them has to be a B+. Alexandra, so thank you for this question. Is taking the GMAT more advantageous over taking the GRE or vice versa? Great question. So we have no preference. You can do either. What I can tell you anecdotally is a lot of our applicants who have a more kind of mathematical or technical background, they choose to go for GMAT, and applicants coming from more like social sciences or sciences or humanities fields, they choose to go for GRE, but it's not a recommendation or a requirement. It is really up to you. It's your decision. Michelle asked, I am taking a commerce minor. Does that disqualify me from the application? So Michelle, usually our applicants need to have less than 6 courses or less than 18 credits, whichever comes first, to be eligible for the Master of Management. So if you are taking the commerce minor, it is very likely that you already exceed that requirement. And I can share with you why we have that requirement is because there's likely too much overlap between what you're studying and the curriculum we have in the Master of Management program. So for that reason, it's not likely that you'll be eligible, but of course you can take a look at how many courses you've taken so far or that are required for your minor, but usually you will just exceed that cap, unfortunately. So for applicants who've done a minor and major in commerce, we would recommend that you look at our other programs such as Master of Business Administration. That program requires at least 2 years of full-time work experience upon graduation, so it might be something that you go into further down the road, but at the same time, that is an option for you. So somebody is asking about retaking the GMAT or GRE exam. So I would say for those kind of more specific personal situations, you might want to reach out to us directly to discuss it. Because it really depends. So please reach out to us for that. So Johan is asking, given that we already uploaded the unofficial documents in the system, do we still need to send in official transcripts at this point? Or can we send the official transcripts after we receive a decision? So yes, we can evaluate you on unofficial documents, absolutely. So you have the option of uploading your transcripts to your application, and this allows us to move forward with admission decision. If the decision is positive and you accept your offer, then you will be required to send your documents, your final official documents. So usually it means that you're in an institution like where you're completing your degree, it needs to send us your transcript directly. And that can be done electronically or by mail, but for the purposes of admission decision, we are able to consider you on unofficial documents. I can also share that we cannot move forward with evaluating your application until we receive all of the documents we require. So this includes your references, your transcripts, your GMAT GRE score. Until then, even if you've submitted your application, it's technically considered incomplete. And we cannot start looking at it because we evaluate our applicants holistically. So that means that we're still going to be waiting on your transcript, for example. So to speed up the process, this is why we are willing to consider you on unofficial documents. So you can absolutely do that, yes. So Constance asked about IELTS exam. So you graduated from York and Toronto. So yeah, if you have a degree, so York University teaches in English, so then your degree is from Canada. So yes, you do need the English language proficiency requirement. So Zinnia asked for the minimum IELTS scores. So let me scroll back to the slide that I had. And all of this information is on our website, by the way, guys. So if you are looking for any specific scores, they're always there, but you can see here, these are the scores that are needed for IELTS if you're taking that exam, and you can also find this on our website. Alexandra asked, can one of the references be a supervisor in a current part-time job, or even if you have only been a job for a couple of months? Yeah, that's fine. You can definitely provide them as a reference. So I don't see any more questions. Maybe I'll give a couple moments for you to add questions or raise your hand if you like. And I'll put up again the slide that we have with our contact information. So for any specific questions, please reach out to us directly, and we'll be happy to discuss your situation. And again, we have the next deadline upcoming on January 11th. So it is next Tuesday. It's coming up fast. And if you want to apply by that deadline, you still have a couple days. At the same time, if more questions come up, please, of course, reach out to us. Oh, Mark. Okay, Mark has a question. What is the time frame within which our referees can send in their answers after being notified? Can they send it in the post? Can they send it in post a certain application deadline? Okay, thank you, Mark. So yes, again, so you would need to apply. Let's take January 11th as the deadline. Let's assume you're applying by January 11th. You don't need to have all your documents in by then. So it's not the end of the world if you don't have your GMAT, your transcripts, or your references by then. Once you apply, then on the application, you are providing us with contact information for your referees. So we will reach out to them, and they will receive a questionnaire from us. It's just online, and they will complete it. So for the timeline, I would say as soon as possible. So for example, if you're talking to your supervisor, let them know that you are applying to a master's program soon, and we will be reaching out to them. And you really want to make sure that they do this as soon as possible, because we actually will not move forward with evaluating your application until we get your references. So for that reason, as soon as possible is the answer, but the deadline that we give is 2 weeks after the final application deadline. So for international students, that means March 15th, because the final deadline is March 1st. And for domestic applicants, that will mean April 19th, because the final deadline is April 5th. So those are the absolute latest deadline for you to submit any supporting documents, including your references. But of course, ideally, you're not going to wait until then, and you will send it in sooner than that so we can evaluate your application. Okay, so Sherry asked the definition of quantitative courses. I have a UBC sociology undergraduate degree, and I'm afraid I might not have enough quantitative courses to be eligible for a GMAT waiver. So Sherry, if you don't have enough courses, you will have to take the GMAT or GRE test. But you know, for your specific situation, of course, you're welcome to email us to discuss it. But it does happen sometimes that students are not eligible for waivers, so then you need to take the GMAT or GRE. Alexandra asked, if we are applying by January 11th, how long after the submission deadline can we take GMAT or GRE? So again, it's the same deadline for supporting documents. So if you are an international applicant, it's March 15th, and domestic, it's April 19th. So it's 2 weeks after the final deadline. But again, hopefully you're not going to be waiting that long, because that really holds up your application. So your application will be submitted, but it will not be evaluated. You will not receive an admission decision. So that really delays your decision on your application. Okay, so it looks like there's no more questions. So I want to thank you all for coming in today. I know some of you are on lunch, and you need to return to your tasks. So thank you so much for your time. And if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out, email us, and we can chat more about your specific situation. And I hope you have a great rest of your day today.